I have covered many concepts and systems related to combat, supernatural powers and social interactions in GURPS, but I have not talked about exploration and survival. As usual, there are many ways to play these things out in GURPS, from very abstract to very detailed. The first aspect of exploration is, of course, overland movement. To explore something, you have to get there first. The primary movement mode of most characters is walking. Hiking rules can be found on page 351 of GURPS basic set. If you Google GURPS hiking, you undoubtedly will find dozens of forum threads with people arguing about hiking. This is a contentious topic. In short, these rules are way too optimistic, even when taking into account the fact that they assume a full day of hiking under ideal conditions. Even if conditions are not ideal, the rules do modify daily travel distance by roads, terrain and weather. The numbers are still a bit too high. But that doesn't mean that the rules are not usable. They are simple, but they are workable. If you hate calculations, consider using the hiking tool on the GURPS calculator website. I will link it in the description. What I find interesting is that not only your basic move is important, but also your hiking skill, and sometimes even leadership. Hiking is a very important skill in low-tech games, and you should almost always invest at least a point into it. In some situations, hiking is replaced with skiing or skating. GURPS basic set only operates with daily movement rates, but GURPS High-Tech expands these rules slightly to cover hourly travel rate on page 55. On page 69, GURPS High-Tech also talks about how important comfortable footwear is when walking long distances. I am sure that everyone who has served in the military can relate. But what if that's too much detail? What if you want something very simple and straightforward? Then take a look at page 5 of GURPS Dungeon Fantasy 2 Dungeons. Basically, it just tells the GM to come up with an arbitrary base travel time and then increase or decrease it based on the hiking, navigation, weather sense and similar roles. If traveling is not an important point of your game, there is nothing wrong with doing it this way. On the other hand, what if you are not satisfied with the rules in GURPS basic set and want something more detailed? Then look no further than GURPS Dungeon Fantasy 16 Wilderness Adventures. This is one of those books that are very useful even outside Dungeon Fantasy games. It expands and reworks the hiking rules, turning overland movement into something of a minigame. Before you set out, you have to do some homework and prepare. This might involve area knowledge rolls to know the terrain types you're going to encounter, survival rolls to know the dangers of these terrain types, or even hidden lore rolls to know some unusual dangers. If you are in town, a research roll can get you maps and other information. The same skills can be helpful to plan a route of your voyage. These rules use hourly movement rates that are calculated in a more detailed and realistic way than the GURPS basic set. There are rules for hiking, sandshoeing, snowshoeing, skating, skiing, riding, driving vehicles, water movement and even aerial movement. I think that the only movement type is not covered is tunneling. Movement can be improved with appropriate skill rolls and a good navigation or area knowledge roll. Each terrain type has its own travel speed multiplier, a tracking penalty, and a foraging penalty that can be either static or random. Since the rules use hourly travel time, the book also provides guidelines on how long a group should be traveling per day, depending on the group knowing the survival skill, needing to camp or forage, and of course sleep. When you know this number, it can help you to determine the size of a hex when running a hex crawl game. This might sound complex, but it all fits on 3 pages. I haven't talked about these rules in much detail here, I will leave them to you to read. I just wanted to point you to the right direction, where you can find the basic overland movement rules, the simplest ones, and the most detailed ones. In addition, I would like to point out an interesting article, Low-Tech Transportation from Pyramid 395. This one talks in great detail about various modes of travel and, most importantly, about how much they cost. How much will it cost to feed your horses, maintain your wagon, or hire porters? How much would you have to pay to travel on a ship? This article answers all these questions, be sure to check it out. And that's it for this video, but it's only the first video in the series. Stay tuned for more in the future, where I will explain camping, foraging and other aspects of exploration and survival. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.